Good evening, good morning, wherever you are in the world, and welcome once again to In the Hot Seat with Deborah Fennella. I'm really excited about today's guest because he's a wonderful friend and multi-talented as well. And for all of you Grange Hill fans, it's Mark Baxter from Grange Hill. Now, Mark also played Dwayne Orpington in Grange Hill from 1980 to 1984. And we're going to be talking about Mark's amazing new charity West End show that's going to appear on the West End stage on the 12th of February. So it's actually a week on Sunday. Good evening, Mark. How are you today?
Very well, thank you. Thanks for having me on. Really appreciate it.
I'm really blessed to have you on the show, Mark. It's really exciting because we were busy on Sunday, weren't we?
We were very busy.
Sorry, not Sunday. But we have. So I'm thinking about, obviously, the show's going to be on Sunday. Now, please tell our viewers a little bit about your West End production that's coming up very shortly on the 12th of February, please.
Okay, well, it's a show that's sort of been in my mind for about 6 or 7 years, and it's finally coming to fruition, as you say, on the 12th of February. Yes. And it really was born out of a school reunion, really. I had a school reunion. And I was listening to everybody else's stories of how they and what they did, of us since we've left school. And one of the girls there, one of the ladies there, who was telling me the story of how she went into the youth system in Kent, and literally how some of these young kids that have been sort of pushed to one side and left, to fend for themselves, really, and some really quite stark and disturbing stories. So, and she was saying that she would love to have one sort of experience for them to do with the musical, with musical arts. And I used to do musical workshops, an entry level for youngsters. And I went away from that meeting thinking, this is something that I could actually help her with, and try and do something for. And so then I called her a good 4 or 5 weeks later and said, look, shall we do this? Shall we do this? And I said, I've got this idea of putting on an evening and having some fabulous singers come along and so on. And maybe, one song from your kids and give them that experience of being on a stage in front of 200, 300 people. Something that they'll never forget. And it's something uplifting for them, And then from there, it sort of snowballed to having a full-blown day of events and this show in the evening, and we're raising money for some fabulous charities, which I'm so best pleased about, because the two main charities that I've chosen are all to do with children. So it's about again, having children at the heart of everything that we do on the day. And then along came another lovely little charity who I've included to give them a little bit of awareness projection. And so there you go. So would you like me to tell you about the charities?
Yes, please, Mark. So I know one of them is Aoife's Bubbles and also Freddie's Wish as well. So please tell us a little bit about Aoife's Bubbles first.
Well, Aoife's Bubbles is quite a personal charity for me too, because this young girl, 3 years old, literally her mother sort of was taking her backwards and forwards to the doctors and telling the doctor, there's something wrong with Aoife. And the doctor was going, no, it's growing pain. She's 3 years old. No. And she said there's something wrong. And they wasted at least 8 to 9 weeks of this backwards and forwards, And yes. So Eilish, who was Aoife's mother, decided, I've had enough of this. And so she took her straight to the hospital and went to Great Ormond Street Hospital. And the long and the short of it is that 3 weeks later, that young girl lost her life through germ cell cancer. And her grandfather Pat is a really good friend of mine. So it's really personal to me. It's also something that happened to myself sort of 30 odd years ago when I was 18, 19, and so things have not changed within the medical world here in the UK if they're not picking up on the signs for these. So Aoife's bubbles, literally, you can see it from your caption there, is literally about raising awareness, not just with people, but also within the medical profession, but more about knowing the symptoms of germ cell cancer, and also getting parents to trust their own instincts a little bit more. You know your child better than anybody else.
You do. I agree there. It's definitely.
Yeah. So you've had children, so that your children better than anybody else, and if there's something wrong, then persistently keep nagging at these people, because to them, a lot of the time, you're just a number, really, walking through the door and out again, and that's a real sad state of affairs, to be fair.
It certainly is. And it's also heartbreaking as well, Mark, because maybe if they caught it earlier, do you think they maybe could have saved?
They told her that Aoife would still be here.
Really?
And that's the most heartbreaking part of it all, as you say. And the strength that the two women that run these two major charities, the strength that they've shown going forward after having something so horrific happen in their lives, and to lose somebody so precious. Yes. But to actually go ahead and go, do you know what? I don't want other people to go through this.
Most definitely. Phenomenal work, being an awareness.
Yeah, and for me, that was the sort of defining aspect of everything, was these two truly inspirational women.
Yes.
That had done that. And so that moves me nicely on to Freddie's Wish, which again is a real sad story at that. A young child of 18 months goes out with his dad for the first time in the car, and they're in a fatal car accident. Oh, gosh. And had 18 months old, you think a whole life ahead of him. And the paramedics need a little bit more information and training on how to treat a young child when it comes to that. And so Freddie's Wish really is about helping people through the trauma of grief of losing a child, no matter what age they are, by the way.
Most definitely. Just how old the child is. To lose a child is just heart-wrenching. I mean, obviously being myself and also, a grandmother as well, it's just heartbreaking, because my granddaughter's only like 2.5, bless her. So when you look at Aoife, was only 3, and an 18-month-old as well. It's just heartbreaking, Mark, isn't it? And my husband is, and he goes to the RTCs and he sees some horrific things himself.
And the thing is that the point you made there is so poignant, because Aoife was literally a normal 2.5-year-old, right? So within the space of being 2.5 to 3, in that. If they'd have done if they'd have seen the signs early, but because it didn't and saw it late, it meant that she was no longer with us. And that, for me, that's the biggest tragedy of them all.
Oh, most definitely. It's just heartbreaking. And it's wonderful. The parents are going to actually be there, Mark, aren't they? Both sets of parents.
Of Aoife's bubbles, yes. Unfortunately, Charlotte, who is from Freddie's Wish, ironic, the sadness is that her daughter, her newly born daughter, is in hospital. So her mother's coming along. But there's been a bit of a development with this, in that along my travels with this, I've also come into contact with another charity, and it's one that most people know in the UK. It's called SANS, which is stillbirth and neonatal.
Yes, because I was involved in my friend Jamie's song, and he was raising money for SANS and helped him with it. And I also recorded my vocals on it as well. And it's a wonderful charity, isn't it?
Well, what I've done with this one is I've taken a particular section of SANS, which is called SANS United.
Yes.
So whereas the other two charities are run by women, literally with their grief. Stand United is about how men deal with the grief of losing a child. You know,
Yes.
the statistic in the UK is that today 13 families lost a child, whether it be pre-birth or, you know, after birth. And I think that that's an horrific statistic, really, and that we need to do more for the signs and trying to do that. But with Stand United, it's how men can go out and they can talk to each other, and they can use sport, their football teams, and they can use sport to display their, do you know what I mean, to get that aggression.
Exactly. Also with men, it's hard for them to express how they feel, Mark, isn't it?
Absolutely.
You know, whereas women, we find it more easy to communicate and talk to one another, but also some ladies do bottle things up as well. And it is good to talk. So no matter what you're going through, you know, confide in somebody that you trust rather than bottle it up yourself, you know, because we all need somebody to lean on, don't we, Mark?
Absolutely. And sometimes it's the kindness of strangers too, because a lot of people, they find it a lot easier to talk to strangers than they do somebody they know, for instance.
Oh, definitely.
So if you do find yourself in need to sort of talk to somebody about grief, then there are plenty of places out there where you can try and find, you know, that piece of sanity that's needed at that time.
Yes, and I think also social media is fantastic, Mark, like you say, because there's so many groups now, like on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, you know, MySpace. There's loads of different social media, you know, pages that you can go on to connect with other people that have actually experienced what you're going through as well, you know, and can relate to how you're feeling. And like you say, speaking to a stranger, it's good to talk, isn't it?
Yeah, and you know there's no judgment there as well, because it literally is that. They're not going to go and tell your friends, oh, you're having a mental breakdown, because it's not always about that. It literally is having someone that will listen, because as I found to my cost when I lost my brother in 2020, that there are people out there that say how you're doing, but they don't really want to know how you're doing. They just have to say something, which, you know, to their credit is that they're still acknowledging that you're going through something, but, you know, they don't really want to know the answer because it makes them sad at the same time. So you do understand that, where, you know, I've been doing some cafes in the past, and they've been very successful in getting strangers to talk to each other.
Yes.
You know, it's fabulous that we can sit down as a group, and it's as if we know the person that we've each lost, and they live still. People still live within the memories, and you can create memories even though they may have gone from this plane, let's say.
And that's so true, Mark, because within your heart, you're never far apart, you know, and spiritually, they are always watching over you as your guardian angel when they cross over to the realms of spirit, aren't they? You know, and I think also getting back to, sometimes people just don't know what to say. You know, I mean, I've lost quite a lot of people myself, but I'm also a very spiritual person, as you know. But some people, they feel awkward because they don't know what to say. Like you say, you know, they know that you're grieving, but they feel awkward because they're worried they're going to maybe put their foot in it or say the wrong thing, or maybe they've never actually experienced grief themselves as well.
No, but in that respect, and the thing that, you know, the best thing to do is to say, I don't know what to say, but I can listen.
Yes, it's good to listen.
You know, I'm a good listener, and to be sincere about that. You know, even telling somebody I don't know what to say is acknowledging the person is still going through the grief process, and also the person that they've lost. What I found with a lot of people in the grief circles is that people really do feel like they can't say that person's name anymore, so they'll steer clear of that name. Do you know what I mean? Yes. And as someone that's grieving, I want you to say their name.
Yes. And it's important, like you say, isn't it, to say their name as well, because communication is so important, because when you communicate, you get everything off your chest, and it helps with the grieving process, doesn't it? You know,
of course it does.
There's no time it on grief, and sometimes people will sort of say, well, you should have got over it by now. You never ever fully get over losing a loved one, do you?
No, never.
What we
No.
grieve is the loss of the physical, that we can't just go around and give it, and see them, give them a hug or pick up the telephone and say hi, how are you doing, or do you want to meet up for coffee? That's what we do really miss, don't we, Mark?
Yeah, we do.
Moments
I also think that when people don't speak somebody's name because they've gone, it's almost dismissing that they were here.
Yes.
Okay.
So true.
Yeah, right. So it's like, oh, they're gone now, so we can't say. And that's the worst thing that you can do in front of a grieving person.
Yes, it
okay.
is.
You can't be having a conversation and suddenly stop having that conversation because you're going to mention somebody's name. That's the worst thing, because a grieving person wants to know that who they've lost made a difference to whoever, right?
Yes.
So for me, when people tell stories about my brother, it gladdens my heart.
Oh, that's beautiful. And it's wonderful because, like you say, hearing other people's memories of spending those precious times with your brother, it's all, like you say, it warms your heart, but it also helps you with your grieving process and your healing, and seeing how much your brother was loved and was an amazing gentleman with a heart of gold, just like yourself. And it's, like you say, it's just lovely to hear how other people felt about your loved one.
That's the important thing. So, for all the people that might be listening to to this broadcast today or whenever, just remember that when you're put into that situation, it is so important that you do keep saying that person's name to people.
Yes.
You don't have to rub it in there. Don't get me wrong. Don't keep going. But as time goes on, after 6 months, 8 months, don't suddenly cut it off. Just remember that. I'll give you an example. My brother and I played in the darts team, right?
Yes.
So for that darts team, let's say, they would remember my brother every Thursday because we played darts, right?
Yes.
But they'd mention him every Thursday, and then they go off, and then they get on with their lives, and so on and so forth. But for me, and for anybody else that's lost somebody, we're living with that every single moment.
You are, most definitely. And
right?
Like you say, you never forget them. So they're always on your mind, aren't they?
They're always on your mind.
Yes.
So it's always nice for somebody to pop in and pop out of people's lives, but also don't be frightened to mention that person.
Most definitely not. And that's so important, like you said, Mark, isn't it? Keep their memories alive, because, they love to be remembered from the realms of spirit themselves as well. They often say that when you're thinking of a loved ones, they're actually standing right next to you, in spirit. So acknowledge them, and like I say, it's just wonderful to know that they are around us, and it gives us comfort as well that they are our guardian angels watching over us from up above with unconditional love.
And that's what it is. It's unconditional, isn't it? It really is. You don't stop loving.
No, you don't.
I think one of the best quotes I ever heard was that when you lose someone, it's not just that you've lost someone that you loved, it's you've lost someone that loved you.
Definitely. That is very apt,
right?
Like you say. Somebody loved you and you loved them as well.
Yeah, exactly. But there's one less person in the world now that actually got who you were and loved you. So I think that, again, that's it's quite deep, but it really is quite true.
It's true, isn't it? Like you say, Mark, because it is another loved one that you've lost on the earth plane, and they crossed over to the realms of spirit, and they're not here no more in the physical. I've lost loads of loved ones. We recently lost my husband's uncle Barry, and his funeral was last week, and he was a wonderful gentleman, and my heart goes out to his wonderful wife, Auntie Di, and also Chantel as well, and also my dad is telling of dying of cancer as well, bless him. So it's good to talk. So for those of you that are watching the show today and listening, my thoughts and healing prayers are with each and every one of you that are grieving, and speak up and have a chat to those that are around you. It's good to talk. And also ones, like you said, don't you? Do you still work in the cafe doing the grief support groups?
I go to one of the support groups out in not too far away from me in the Chilterns, because I used to sort of facilitate them, but I go as a member now because the people have become friends.
Oh,
Yeah,
bless you.
the people have
So,
become friends, and
um,
uh, you know, and you've got a sort of base relationship. You when you lose somebody like that, you've got sort of friends before and friends after, so you've got grief friends as
yes.
well now, you know. And so it's
And
quite a strange thing, but
don't you, like you
it
say?
works. It does. It works. And because of the, you know, the world has gone through, you know, what has been a very crazy time with the pandemic and everything. There were
Yes.
so many people that were left when they lost loved ones in the pandemic, that were left to grieve alone, you
Yes.
know. And I think a lot of people are sort of, because the world's moved on a little bit in the last year, I think that's been missed quite a lot, and that there are a lot of people still out there that are suffering through that.
They are.
Um,
And suffering
yeah,
in silence, I think, Mark, as well, because so many people do suffer in silence. They close the door and sometimes close the curtains to the world.
oh
You
yeah,
know,
they do,
people are unaware
absolutely.
what their neighbours are going through. So, you know, again, sometimes knock on your neighbour if you've not seen him for a little while and they've lost a loved one. Just check
Absolutely.
they're okay. Do they need any shopping? Do they need somebody to talk to? You
For
know,
for a glimpse of time in the pandemic, we sort of had a little bit of a reset, and it
we
was,
did, yes.
if there was anything that was good about the pandemic,
Brought people
it
together.
was that people got back into touch
They
with their
did.
communities a little bit,
Yes.
and with, do you know what I mean, and their humanity, where they would go and check on neighbours, they would go and check if they got groceries, they would go and the infirm. But as the world has got back to normal, you see people are far more blinkered again now. They've got their headphones in. Do you know what I mean? They're on their phones all the time, and it is a shame. I'm hoping that we can get a happy medium, really, and people start to communicate a bit more, because we're really
Yes.
becoming very introverted and very
Most
sort of, yeah, exactly. You
And
know.
I agree, like you say, you know, with social media, it's a fantastic tool, but sometimes, you know, people don't go out because they're on the social media, or like you say, I mean, I've been driving down the road many a times and you see people and they're on their mobile phones and they're just walking across the road and can see your car, you know, and then they're not even looking up. And it's like, wake up world, you know, pay attention and communicate with each other, but also look when you're crossing the road when cars are coming, you know, and be careful, like you say, because
Yeah.
you know, people get knocked over as well because they've got their headphones in, like you say, they're not listening, or they're on their mobile phones as well, and it's just so important, isn't it?
And it was really interesting. I just saw the little caption that came up from Lisa,
Yes.
and she she's hit the nail on the head about we do talk about it in a sad sort of sense, but there is still the joy of having been blessed. I'm going to
Yes.
use the word blessed,
Blessed.
by having those people in your lives, right?
Yes.
So we should sort of celebrate. We need to celebrate those, you know, when those things happen to us, and
Yes.
like I say, celebrate those people's lives, because they meant such a huge amount to us, let's say.
Yes. And it, like you say, it's a celebration of their life and a celebration of your life with
With
them
them, yeah,
as
for
well.
sure.
Really
But going
important.
back to the 12th, we've suddenly gone off slightly there.
So sorry, to be
No,
honest,
that's good. That's good. It's good.
talk about grief because you know we'll have many viewers actually watching this evening, or daytime, doesn't matter where they are in the world, but listening to our conversation and you know being able to talk and reach out to those in need as well. Now, getting back to the show, Mark, like you said, we've got Duncan Norvellle, celebrity comedian, involved, haven't we? I sort of sweet talked him for you.
You certainly did. You certainly did. And now he's off on a cruise somewhere, so I'm hoping he gets back in time.
Yes, fingers crossed he's going to get back.
I am so dependent on Duncan. I can't tell you. Yeah, we have got Duncan coming in.
Yes.
I've been very lucky. I've been sent a couple of angels, you being one of them, I have to say. You know, and we sort of we've cobbled this little show together, which I'm so pleased with. Some of the shots you're seeing now are from the rehearsal we had at the sort of earlier on in the week. And some of my friends that when I was in musical theatre a while back now, but they went on to have huge careers in the West End. You know, in shows such as Evita, Les Miserables, Oliver, Mutiny, all these things. Yeah. So,
Yes.
and they're coming to perform for us as well as yourself on the night. There's
It's
Duncan.
really
You can probably see
exciting.
Duncan. So it's really exciting that I can, that not just exciting for me, but you know what? People's kindness has astounded me at times. And we're going to talk about the Grange Hill guys in a little while. I know that. So I'll talk about that when it comes around. But just everybody that's sort of heard about what I'm doing, it's sort of connected with them on some sort of level. So they've said, well, what can I do to help you? There hasn't been anybody that's a waste of time. I'm not doing that. Do you know what I mean? So everybody. And I think the one thing that's really important to say that I haven't actually said yet is that every penny that we're making, we've got a small amount of expenses, but every penny we're making is literally going to the charities, right? Everything, right? Because I've sort of been involved in other charities in the past, and when people give their money to charities, you know, it's astounding that because of administration costs, that 72% literally goes in administration costs. So every pound you give, 28p is actually going to help anybody. It literally is so important to me that we have chosen charities that will benefit so much by every pound that we give them. I just wanted to make that. Sorry, I didn't make that clear earlier on, just so that people know that what we're doing is.
And I think it's quite heartbreaking, like you say. How many people say it's for charity? I've come up against it so many times, and hardly anything goes towards charity. I mean, as you know, I'm a singer-songwriter myself. I've released lots of charity songs, and all the money goes to charity. If it's going to be charity, go to charity. But like you say, some people say, yes, it's going to charity, but once they take the administration cost and everything else, there's very little that does actually go.
No, exactly. A lot of the charities that I've sort of touched on become landowners, and that's where your pound goes. You know what I mean? So they buy buildings and stuff like that. It's not really going to the people that you gave your money to. So it's not like when you give to children in need, for instance. So everything goes, because the BBC, obviously they don't need the money, so you can donate to children in need because you know where the money's going. But it literally is, there's a fine line. But there you go. That's life for you. Business is business, I suppose.
It certainly is. I mean, often people say charity sort of begins at home, but as I say, it's good to be kind and to think of those less fortunate than ourselves, and always stay blessed, or count your blessings no matter what you're going through in life. We are all truly blessed, aren't we? Like you say, and there's always someone else going through a worse situation than what we can go through ourselves as well. So be kind to one another is so important. Now I'd like to
go on, carry on.
I'd like to talk a bit more about obviously the cast involved, and also it's Grange Hill's 45th anniversary.
Oh yeah.
The cast are going to be there in the afternoon, Mark, but also about your time in Grange Hill from 1980 to 1984, and how the opportunity first came about, please.
Well, although the screening was 80 to 84, the actual filming was 79, because we filmed it always in the summer before. So although the the episodes went out in the February, I actually started in the 79. It all came about really from before that, when I was in the West End. I was I played Oliver in the West End.
Exciting.
Yeah, it was great. I mean, it was a dream role for any sort of 11-year-old to have, where anybody that's seen the show Oliver, the sort of revised version of it, he literally is on stage and holds the whole show together as an 11-year-old boy. You're right from the start of Act 1, and there's only about 6 minutes of the second half that he's not actually on stage. So it's a huge responsibility.
Yes.
And Cameron McIntosh, who obviously went on to do a couple of things, you might have heard of it. Obviously, it was his production, and I had the wonderful Roy Hudd as my first Fagin. I then had Roy Detrice and then George Layton. For those people that are sort of lucky enough to get a ticket to the show, there's a real nod to Roy. He was a huge influence on myself even though it wasn't a fact that he took me to one side or anything like that, because he was like that with all of the cast. But just to watch somebody like Roy work was just a real joy and a real learning curve for any young actor. And I learned so much from watching him do what he did. Not just, like I say, performing wise, but his direction, to give, he would often bring someone to one side, one of the boys to one side, and say, listen, if you say that line like this, you're going to get a really good laugh, or you're going to get a really better reaction. So you put it in the next night, and he was 100% right every time.
Oh, bless. And you learn so much, I think, Mark, sorry to interrupt, by actually watching, and you do, just observing and watching somebody else step into character on the stage, or whether on film set or in a TV commercial. And that's how you do tend to learn yourself as well. And then obviously you step into character yourself, because as you know, with acting, you are getting on that stage or on the film set or in the advert and stepping into character, aren't you?
Absolutely. And it was crazy because we were young kids, and I'd done other sort of musicals before that, but this was really the one that I craved, as any young boy would want. It's a bit like any young girl would want to be Annie, or Matilda now, right?
So what's your favourite movie then, Mark, as a child, Oliver? Because they say through the law of attraction and manifestation, that sometimes you watch a movie. I mean, I remember Digby, the biggest dog in the world.
Yeah.
I used to always love watching Digby. And I used to say to my mum, I love a Digby dog. And she actually bought me one for my 21st birthday. And he was a massive, just like...
Yeah. They're huge dogs, man.
They are massive, aren't they?
Yeah.
Like, Oliver, did you sort of like watch the movie, again and again and again,
Yeah. I mean, I was very lucky that I'd already been in the show as one of Fagin's gang, let's say. So I'd already watched two other boys play Oliver, and I'd sort of stolen bits of each of them and then put my own flavour on it. I was really lucky that one of the performers that we have on the 12th, Tony Carpenter, he was the best friend of Jack Wilde.
Oh,
so yeah, the best friend of Jack Wilde, and he's Jack's last book before he left us mentions Tony quite a lot, and Tony's a good friend of mine, even though he might be a little bit older, but I spoke with Jack a couple of times too. He came to the theatre, blah blah blah. So I'd watch Jack, as the Artful Dodger, even though he was, and Mark Lester, obviously. But I was lucky because I had two friends that were my Artful Dodgers to start with. Mm-hmm. So Paul McCarthy, who was also going to be there because he went on to be in Grange Hill too. So we'll talk about him again in a second. He will be comparing the daytime for me. He was an Artful Dodger of mine. Wayne Norman, who was in Grange Hill, he was an Artful Dodger of mine. So there was quite, do you know what I mean? So there's a bit of a theme going on here, isn't there?
It must be so exciting to have him on stage with you, Mark, as well, after being in Grange Hill, and then next week you're on that West End stage, because obviously, as you know, when you're on film set, they can edit it and cut it, but as we both know, in musical theatre, the show must go on, and if you mess up, you just got to keep going with it, or if you forget your lines, you've got to do ad lib and just get on with it, because you've got that audience, all eyes on you, aren't they?
Yeah, absolutely. There was one part in Oliver where Roy, as Fagin, he pulls me out because I've caught him counting his money, and he pulls me in front of him, and I have to kneel in front of him, and as I knelt on a nail.
Oh no!
And then when he pulled me up, I just sprayed him with the blood from it was like, and so do you know what I mean? But I just put a plaster on it and then went on and did the second half, and it was like, but it was just, nowadays there'd be health and safety.
Yes.
I'll be in a splint. I'll be off for 5 days. But so that's what it was. That's what it was like in the 70s. And from there, I was really lucky. I did children's Royal Variety performance at the Royal Albert Hall. So it led to a lot of things, but obviously the biggest thing, the biggest thing it led to was to Grange Hill, and I had 5 wonderful years as Dwayne, and so again, so there were some fabulous child actors around at that time too. You know,
So
and you
who's
look
your
at
favourite actor? Sorry, Mark, to put you on the spot. They had some wonderful actors. I mean, to me, they were all amazing actors anyway. But who were your favourite characters out of, all of the different characters that were there? And also your favourite teacher as well.
One of my, I mean, Gwyneth was Mrs. McCluskey, and,
Yes, she was
sadly we lost Gwyneth last year too. But she became the country's headmistress, and she was just so good, you know, and just the mannerisms of not even having to say a word,
she's fantastic.
Just having files on her, you know, by the side of her, you know. But there was another really great actor, and he played Mr. Keating, Robert Hartley, and he was I just loved watching him, and even Brian Capron, who obviously went on to be in Coronation Street as Tricky Dicky, you know, and even he will tell you how good an actor Robert Hartley was. He was fantastic, and I mean Brian was closer to our age than he was to any of the others. So I learned a lot from Brian too. Yeah, he's a lovely, really great guy. Out of the children, of course, we had so many. I mean, Terry Supat was just an amazing young actor. Todd Carty, who you might have heard, he went on to do quite well for himself afterwards.
Really well. Is he going to be there on Sunday?
No, he's not. Unfortunately, he's doing the Mousetrap. He's in the Mousetrap. Yeah, so he's doing that. But my friend Paul McCarthy, who literally played Tommy Watson, he went on to be in Tucker's Luck with Todd.
I remember Tucker's Luck.
Yeah, he literally is such a great pal of mine, and he's agreed to literally sort of MC the day for me because I'm going to be rather busy trying to get everything else for the evening.
I'm going to help you as well. And my husband's already said, if you need any help, just call upon him. But please don't get him on the stage.
Okay, that's all right. Yeah, Gary, I'm going to hold
stage fright.
I'm going to hold you to that. But the interesting thing about the day event for the Grange Hill, because it's obviously it was the 8th of February, 1978. The very first episode of Grange Hill went out, and so we're there on the 12th. So it's 45 years to that week.
I was going to say, it was almost feels like it was yesterday, but obviously we're getting a bit older. It's crazy, isn't it?
It is crazy.
Heart, but like 45.
I have to say that when we decided to put the event together and include the Grange Hill bit.
Yes.
I literally thought, if I can get 6 of my ex-classmates to come along in the daytime, and we get maybe 30 souls that would like to come and listen to our tales of what happened, then I'd be very happy. Do you know what I mean? I've made a little bit of extra for my charities, and it'd be great. And so I literally put out a call to really and truthfully to the cast members I knew would say yes. I knew they wouldn't say no to me because I love them to bits. Right, and there wasn't even a heartbeat, and the 5 or 6 of them said, "Yeah, absolutely, I'll be there." And then so I thought, I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll try a few more.
Yes,
I'll push my luck a little bit.
If you don't ask, Mark, you don't know, do you?
Yeah, no, you don't. And so I did, and then I thought, okay, and then I thought this could be okay. So I thought I'm gonna get some proper help now.
Yes.
So I went to I don't know if some of you guys, you know, like you said earlier about social media, but on Facebook there are lots of Grange Hill fan sites. There's quite a few, right? So I got in contact with these 2 guys who I'd met previously, and I get on really well with Simon Streak and Lee Myers, and I said to them, "Do you think we could do this?" And they said, "Leave it to us. We'll get a cut. We'll get some." And then we had another meeting, and I said, "Okay. So how many people do you think we can get in?" And I said, because I'm looking at maybe 40, 50. And they said, well, you can double that, right? And I'm like, what? What, in people coming to see us? They goes, yeah, you can do definitely. And I said, no. I said, how many cast members have we got? And at that point, they said, we've got about 20. I went, crikey. You know, that's huge.
20,
at this stage, I've got more cast members and I've got people coming.
Yes.
And so I thought this event is too much just for myself I can oversee it, but so I said to the guys, "Are you happy to help me?" And they said, "Yeah." And so then, what I should say to you is that I'm going to connect both sections of your show now, with the grief part at the beginning and now the show here.
Yes.
Because prior to this, there was a lady that I knew a long time ago. She was an extra. Well, she was in Grange Hill. She was an SA and a little part in Grange Hill. Shelley. And Shelley sadly lost her son, James, very sadly, and was treated appallingly by the local institutions, let's say. And I played a very small part. She'll tell me, but it was a small part in trying to help her sort of dodge the landmines around that and sort of navigate through that. And so then she actually came along to some of that. She was coming along to the cafe. She still comes to the cafes. And I said, and I remember ringing Shelley and saying to her, "Shelley, I've finally got my venue. You know, I can get. Because I'm always glass half empty." And I said, "I've got this lovely little venue. You know, I'm expecting about maybe 70, 80 people to come at night to the show. Maybe the guys reckon 100 people for the event." I said that, but that's pushing it.
Yes.
And then she said, "Well, I'll tell you what." She said, "My company will sponsor the event." And she and her company LXT Events, they literally paid for the venue, and she's done so much more than that since then. Well, as you know,
she's amazing.
Right? She's been incredible, absolutely incredible. Amazing. And then she went on to, which has let me concentrate on the evening, because then she went with the boys, and she's sort of, and so we sold out the tickets for the Grange Hill event in 3 days. We actually 3 days. We literally went back to the venue and said, "Have we got any more room?" Okay. Well, they said, "Well, is 120 not enough?" No. Okay, well, then we'll go to 150 then. We sold out in 2 days after that. Suddenly, we're now, I think, at something like 34 cast members going to be there. It's going to be the biggest reunion. You can probably see some of the artwork.
That's amazing.
As we're coming in, that's only half of one page. It's huge, it's humongous that some of the artwork is being auctioned, and we're adding to it, as I say. But the lovely thing for me is that there are quite a few cast members that have never been to one of these before.
Oh, really? Oh, it's going to be wonderful.
Never been before. So it's literally, So for the people that have bought tickets to come and see it, they're not going to hear the same old stories all the time, because they've heard enough of me, to be perfectly honest. But there are going to be people there that they're going to get the chance to get their signatures on their bits of whatever they want to do, photographs and so on and so forth. But hear the stories that happened, throughout 30 years. Don't forget, huge.
But it just show how huge that TV show was. Even now, and the huge following that Grange Hill still has. To be honest, it was a phenomenal show. I used to watch it all the time. I never missed an episode as a child myself back then. Brilliant.
I think I'm a bit biased, but I think there's probably only one other BBC show that probably has as fanatical fans as we do, and that'd be Doctor Who, right?
Doctor Who, yes.
Okay. No, yes. I think the Grange Hill fans are right up there with them guys.
And they're very loyal as well, like you say, the Grange Hill fans, aren't they?
Are so loyal.
Obviously the Centurions, like the movie, and they sort of like brought that out, and again, that was a huge hit. But I think out of all of the TV series that they've done based around schools, nothing's actually beat Grange Hill.
Well, we were the first real. I mean, before us, it was literally adults playing children. And that was what was so great about Phil Redmond's vision.
Yes.
Because suddenly he brought Todd, Tucker in, Alan in, Benny in, and really the BBC took a chance with this, because they were trusting teenagers with, primarily running a show. Like I say, before that, we had the Fen Street Gang and things like that, where, it was all adults playing children.
It was.
So, and so over 30 years, of course, you've got so many people out there that, they have different times in the show as well. and it's part of their growing up. It's part of their adolescence, as it were. So, and there was always characters that they could relate to. So, so they'll all have their favourites, which is fantastic, because it just means that the age range that we have is huge. You know, it's not just old men like me. It literally is. I know, yeah, but you know what I mean? It's like we have, because of BritBox and things like that, and the CD, the DVDs, let's say, we have 20-year-olds coming and 90, and I just think that's just fabulous that they're still relatable. 45 years on, let's be honest.
I agree.
Incredible.
I think it'd be wonderful, Mark, if they did a rerun of Grange Hill right back from the very beginning. You know, the BBC. Obviously, I don't know if they've still got UK Gold, because the UK Gold used to always play all of the old TV shows, didn't they?
Well, BritBox does. BritBox has series, I think, series 1 to 13.
Okay.
Yeah, so they do 1 to 13. But of course, it's a subscription. But I will always be very, very thankful and very fond of my time in what I would class as Britain's longest running children's TV dramas.
Yes, because it went on for a long time. And you've also made some long-lasting friends, haven't you? You know, from Grange Hill, that you're still in contact with them now. Because I can imagine film set, it must have, you know, obviously I've been on film set many times myself as a child growing up into adulthood as well. But you do become a family, don't you? You all look after each other as well. But how did you cope with like the schooling? Did they sort of say, right, you know, in between, did you do any homework, Mark? You know, did they sort of say, right, on your lunch break, get your head in the books, not obviously reading your scripts, but your school books like your maths and your English, or...
This is the point I'm supposed to say yes, isn't it? Okay. Yes. It's funny because one of my closest friends from the show again is Paula Ann Bland, who played Claire Scott, and we were talking about this. We were talking about this the other day, and Paula has been extraordinary over the last 6 to 8 weeks for me, because I went to her and said, "Can you help me? Because I'm drowning," and she has just been phenomenal. She's got me, you know, she's got people involved and some auction prizes that I would never have dreamed, but just she's just infectious, you know. And we were talking about this, and it was the fact that the BBC said that they would always give us a tutor, but the thing was that when it came to especially the studio, we were nearly in all the scenes, so the tutor was just sitting there twiddling their thumbs, and we go in there for half an hour with a sandwich in our mouth, you know, and then we're out again. And then the BBC were quite naughty, to be perfectly honest, because they would have us working. If we worked over 10 o'clock, they'd have to give us a taxi home, right? Yeah. So 9:59. No, 9:59. That was it. We were always at that building, you know, and we were on the tube making our own way home. Paula lived in Crawley, right? She lived in Crawley, so she was getting 2 trains, and her mum and dad would. And it just ridiculous, and then the BBC were really naughty. They knew what they were up to as well, you know.
Yeah, that's really naughty. Where did they actually do filming, Mark? It wasn't Pinewood Studios, was it?
No. We did most of ours on sort of in the summertime. We did all the outdoor shots, so we were literally in a school in Willesden for hours. There was there was one in Kingsbury as well to start with. Then we went to Willesden, then we went to Fulham Prep. And then, so we started off at the BBC, what was the BBC Studios, which was in White City. And then just as I left, they moved to Elstree. And they moved to Elstree literally about 6 weeks before EastEnders started.
Oh, wow.
And so EastEnders were really mad, because the likes of Lee MacDonald and Erkan Mustafa, you know, your Zammos and your Rolands, they had all the best... all the best dressing rooms, and all these new people from EastEnders had to go up onto the first floor, and they weren't happy with that. And if you go to Elstree today, there's still the Grange Hill car park, you know, the Grange Hill car park. Yeah, it's still there, so that's all good.
Wow, because at Pinewood Studios, they've obviously got all of the 007.
The 007, yeah.
And it's wonderful, because I did my TV presenting course there, and it was just fantastic. And I was gutted, actually, because 2 weeks previous, they were filming Mary Poppins, and I was gutted that obviously that the casting agent didn't contact me to even be an extra. I would have loved to Mary Poppins. So I did a part of my TV show reel around Mary Poppins.
Wasn't Positive Productions, was it?
Is it, sorry?
It wasn't Positive Productions, was it? Your TV course?
No, it was called Loving London Live.
Right, cool.
Oh, sorry, that was my little TV show that I did. I forgot the actual course. I had to go and do a whole week intense advanced TV presenting training. I think it was just called TV presenting. Brian Naylor. He's worked TV. Do you know Brian?
I know the name, yeah, for sure.
Yes. So Brian was my teacher, bless him. So had great fun, and we had to make up our own TV shows, 5 different ones, and then go out and about in London. So I did an entertainment one and was talking about Mary Poppins. So,
wow, cool.
So yes, it's all great fun. So out of all of the casts that are coming, give us a few names. Obviously, you don't give all the names because it'd be nice to surprise people.
Yeah.
The 12th. So could you please give us a few?
So a lot of my friends sort of, I got Joanne Boakes, who was Anita. I've obviously got Paula Ann Bland, who was Claire Scott. I've got Lisa East, who was Christine. I have Lisa York, who was Julie Marchant. I've got Paul McCarthy, who was Tommy Watson. I've got George, who was Ziggy. Right, so we can carry on if you want to. I've got so many people coming, you know. But as you say, I've got a few of the teachers coming. I've got Miss Booth coming.
Is she? That'd be good.
So I'm just trying to see now for my picture here, as it will remind me. I've got a couple of surprises. I've got to tell you, and I don't want to give that too much away.
Don't give too much away, Mark, because it's nice to surprise people when they come.
No, exactly. So I've also, so there are quite a few people that were in the show after my time too. So I've got Fleur Taylor coming, Tinkner now, who was Imelda. So she was one of the Terrorhawks. So she was the baddie at that time. So, Fiona Fraser too coming. I've got so many. There are so many. And again, I am just so grateful to each and every one of them for giving up their time to come along. Because this will be the biggest and the last one that I do. This is it.
Oh, bless you. Well, you've done an amazing job. And also got my wonderful photographer friend, Steve Knight, Night Vision Photography. He's going to be there this afternoon, taking lots of photographs, and also in the evening as well, the performances. So I'm excited to have Steve. And also Matt Black. I've got Matt Black, Piano Man, involved, haven't I?
Absolutely, yeah. And that's
direct.
Fantastic. All the guys have been brilliant. I mean, absolutely fantastic.
He's doing amazing work, isn't he? Bless him.
Yeah.
So what advice would you give, Mark, to somebody who would like to embark down the path of acting, please?
Okay, so I would say the biggest piece of advice I would ever give anybody is that in life, we come up against what I would call resistance. And it's like walking up to a wall, yeah? You know, when people do the London Marathon, they always talk about the wall, hitting the wall. Well, 90% of people, they walk up to the wall and then they turn back. Okay?
I think that's it, isn't it? Like you say, the wall is fear in believing in themselves, really.
Exactly.
But
self-belief, whichever way.
Self-belief, is it? Fear of failure, I think, holds a lot of people back.
Honestly, it is. And what really matters is literally breaking through that resistance wall and believing in yourself so much that you're willing to just keep going, keep pushing, keep that self-belief, If you don't believe in yourself, then nobody else will believe in you.
I completely agree. And never give up, Mark, as well. It's like you're saying, first you don't succeed, try and try again. And eventually that door will open, the right one.
There's one guarantee in life. If you give up, you won't.
No.
Right?
That is so true, isn't it? And
right? So that's the guarantee you have. If you keep trying, you've still got your chance, right?
Yes.
It's like buying a lottery ticket. There are people that buy a lottery ticket every week. I never win. But there is somebody that does win because they keep buying the ticket. If you give up, I promise you one thing, you can't win the lottery.
No.
You're not in it.
It's fate as well. I do think fate does intervene, like you say, in law of attraction and cosmic ordering and self-belief as well. Like you say, if you don't believe in you, then no one else is going to believe in you.
I know you're strapped for time, but I can just tell you one very quick story.
Yeah, no,
and that is okay. And that is that when I was a young man, I had an agent, and she rang me up one afternoon and said, "Can you get down to the Duke of York's Theatre in central London, take 2 songs, and get on the stage there? They look, you know, it's a good audition."
Yes.
And I said, "Yeah, absolutely." So I had my 2 songs, and off I went. I raced through town on the Piccadilly line, never forget it. Got myself off at Leicester Square, ran down to Martin's Lane, into the stage door. A young girl sitting at a desk, and whenever I went into an audition, I always made an, you know, I pushed the door open and laughed, and yes. I've arrived. You don't need anybody else, right? So then I threw my music down onto the to the table, and I said, "Right, I'm here for the audition." 11, I think it was 11:40, something like that. And she looked up at me and she said, "Are you sure?" And I said, "Yeah, yeah." I goes, "My name's there. Look, Mark Baxter. There it is, 11:40." She goes, "Okay." She goes, "I don't think you're going to be right."
Oh no, really?
I said, "What?" And it literally was a musical for Black performers. Oh, and I was sent, right? And I looked around the room, and of course, everybody's sniggering and laughing. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh. I'm thinking when I get my hands on my agent, there's going to be blood in the room. And I thought, you know what? I've just paid my ticket to come here.
Yes.
I've got a 10-minute slot. She's laughing. They're all laughing. I'm thinking, I goes, okay. I said, I'll audition anyway, though. She goes, what? I said, no, I'll audition anyway. She goes, but it doesn't matter, does it? I've got the 10 minutes slot. And so then I walk out onto the stage at the Duke of York, which is a very tiny theatre, to be fair. And then there's laughter from right at the back of the stalls. Yeah, can we help you? I said, well, listen, I've paid me fare. Surely you can do the decency of listening to me sing.
Yes.
So they went, if you have to, go on then, if you want to. I did my 2 numbers, and they stood up and they went, well done, you know, thank you very much for coming. She goes, obviously you won't get the job. I said, no, I won't get the job. But I said, you know what? It's an experience, isn't it? It's something to talk about with my friends. And off I went back home.
Oh, bless you.
And
well done.
I rang my agent, and I went mental, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, 2 weeks later, my agent gets a call, and she rings me straight away and says, how do you feel doing a national tour of a play called Once a Catholic? And I said, well, yeah. I said, where do I go for the audition? She goes, you don't have to audition. She said, you remember you went on the Duke of York's Theatre a couple of weeks ago?
Yes.
I said, yeah. He goes, well, the guy that's putting it all on, Bill Kenwright, he said he hasn't laughed so much in all his life, but he said you were really, really good. And he's offered me the part straight away. So
fantastic. Well done.
You see what I'm saying? So for you, for any of your people out there that are in the arts and stuff like that, every opportunity, never turn down an opportunity. No, never. You don't know where it can lead you.
Exactly, Mark. And you never know who's going to cross your path. Like you say, you can go through, I mean, there's a lot of rejection, as we both know, in the TV, film and casting world. But you've got to keep going, because eventually, like you say, you could be somewhere and they say, unfortunately, you haven't got this part. And then, like you say, 2 weeks later, you get a phone call and another opportunity will come in as well. And it's who you meet along the way, Mark, that opens these doors of opportunities for you. So
sliding doors.
It is definitely sliding doors.
You can turn left or you can turn right. It's going to lead you to somewhere.
But never give up.
Never give up. No.
Never give up.
No.
So before we close, Mark,
yes,
have you got any dreams for the future? Obviously, you're doing the West End show. Is there maybe a movie you'd like to do next or something? You don't know.
Yeah, no, I'm again, thank you for that. I don't know who you've been talking to, but I'm pleased.
Yes.
Yeah.
I can see, movie opportunities coming in for you.
Well, Paul McCarthy and myself have been talking about. He's written a series of 30-minute shows, and basically they are. I mean, he's a good. He doesn't know it, but he's a really good writer. You know, he's always a bit self-critical, but he knows how to write, and he's got these ideas and. We're hoping that we can get one done this year, and we're going to just use ex-Grange Hill actors within the piece to start us up. Yeah. So they won't be their characters, but they will be the actors. Do you see?
Yes. So it'd be the modern day take, maybe on Grange Hill, because my brother, his friend, is Lee Morris. You know the well-known TV producer Lee Morris.
Yeah. Yes.
He's really good friends with my brother Paul, and he apparently is going to be going into comedy next as well.
Oh wow! Yes. It's like anything, isn't it? It's for us. It's more about the current situation we find ourselves in, you know, and trying to deal with things that matter today. So knife crime, for instance, you know, it's that kind of stuff. The drug situation, maybe, but you know, the political arena we can do too. You know, it's that kind of thing. But it'll be nice because again, some of the Grange Hill guys that watch it, they can be playing spies and going, well, I remember him as so and so. I remember, do you know what I mean? It's that kind of thing going on. So yeah, so that's it.
Different roles to the roles that they did play, you know, stepping into character in Grange Hill, maybe giving completely different roles.
Completely different roles. Different roles.
A bit of a challenge, but exciting challenge to
absolutely.
You know, get involved in, Mark.
Oh, I'm well up for it, and it's something that I can see happening. I really do think it will happen.
Yes. Well, I think there's going to be many an opportunity going to open up for you this year, Mark. And I'm so proud of you. Keep shining bright. You're doing phenomenal work. And Shelley Daniels and also Paula Blander and all of the Grange Hill cast as well. And I can't wait to be performing on the West End stage for you.
Absolutely.
My chest will clear from this flu bug that I've
had. Mine too, darling. Mine too.
Day-night tablets. Well, thank you so much, Mark. I know all the tickets are all sold now, so unfortunately people can't buy any tickets, can they? Because they're all sold out now, Mark, aren't they?
This was never about this show was never about selling tickets, guys.
No. I was just thinking anyone watching it would like to come.
It was a lovely opportunity to talk with Deborah and to get the awareness out there. Please go to the websites of Freddie's Wish, Aoife's Bubbles and Sands, and just educate as many people as you possibly can. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. And just quickly before we go, Mark, actually, have you thought, I know you're just thinking one night only, you could maybe tour with this show up and down the country? What do you reckon, to raise even more money for, you know, the charities and different charities as well? It's another little thing you can think about. So leave that one with you, Mark.
Leave that with me, yeah. Let me lie down in the dark room to go over this one first.
Well, you're welcome. Well, thank you so much, Mark. You've been
lovely.
Amazing.
Thank you.
And thank you so much for finding time to chat with us this evening as well.
It's been a pleasure.
Oh, thank you so much. And thank you to all of our viewers all over the world as well for supporting us on In the Hot Seat TV show. And hopefully Anthony will be back in a couple of weeks' time when we're back again. And if you'd like to appear on the show, you can actually give us an email on In the Hot Seat with Deborah Fennella TV show @gmail.com, or follow us on social media and also YouTube as well. And thank you so much to our sponsor, Dip in the Pond Landscaping. If you need any landscaping done, he is amazing and he would do a grand job for you as well. And thank you so much to our TV show producers, Salima and Moinul as well. Stay safe wherever you are in the world, and bye for now. Thank you. Bye.